This episode is brought to you by the Regional Air Quality Council. This summer, go wild for Front Range air quality. When you're parked in parking lots, at the trailhead, or when picking someone up, turn off your car and don't idle with the AC on to help reduce ground level ozone. Did you know that idling your car for just 1 minute creates about 150 balloons worth of air pollution? Yikes! Learn more ways to help improve air quality in the Front Range at simplestepsbetterair.org. And you can sign up for summer ozone alerts to know when it matters most by texting Better Air CO to 21000. This episode is brought to you by the Central City Opera. This season features something for everyone. For first-time opera goers, The Barber of Seville is perfect. It's a funny and fast rom-com featuring well-known songs. Or check out Once Upon a Mattress, a classic Broadway musical for the whole family. Tickets start at just $34, and listeners can use code CityCast to get 20% off select dates. Just go to centralcityopera.org/citycast to learn more. The festival starts in less than a month. Get your tickets before they're gone. Today on CityCast Denver. A senior state employee filed a lawsuit against Governor Polis last week, alleging that the governor is violating state law by cooperating with a subpoena from ICE. As anti-ICE protests play out in cities across the U.S., including Denver, I'm sitting down with David Seligman, a candidate for Attorney General and Executive Director of Towards Justice, to talk about why he joined the lawsuit and why he thinks the governor is wrong. Plus, stick around to the end of the show for a sponsored segment from the Regional Air Quality Council about how you can help address our air quality problems this summer. Today is Thursday, June 12th. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. David Seligman, welcome back to CityCast Denver.
It's great to be here. Thanks, Bree.
So you lead this law firm, Towards Justice. Why did you want to join this lawsuit against Governor Polis?
So Towards Justice represents working people across Colorado taking on corporate abuse. One of the most common types of corporate abuse that we see all the time are people who experience wage theft. Many of those are immigrant workers, sometimes documented, sometimes undocumented. The thing that interferes the most with their ability to come forward and prosecute wage theft claims, report labor violations, is fear. Fear is the thing that stands in the way more than anything else of our ability to police corporate lawlessness. Absolutely essential to being able to mitigate that fear is giving them the comfort to understand that they can come forward to report violations without fear that there will be cooperation between the people they're reporting to and immigration authorities. And that's true, by the way, for people who are documented and undocumented, right? So a story that I like to tell, and we've got a million stories like this, but a story that I like to tell, which I just think emphasizes the stakes, is we got a call from a worker a few months ago who explained that he continued to ask for his paycheck over and over and over again. He was doing construction work in Denver. And his employer told him, if you ask for your paycheck one more time, you'll get a bullet in the head and a call to ICE, right? That's
Gosh.
And that we hear those stories all the time. Like, those are the stakes, right? Like, that's how much fear people are up against in coming forward and seeking out really the ability to vindicate very basic rights, to be paid the amounts you're owed, right? The right to a safe workplace, the right to paid family medical leave and sick leave, the things that the hard-fought rights of Colorado law, they are words on a page. Those are just words on a page. If people don't have the courage and the comfort to be able to come forward and report violations, they mean nothing. And we tell hundreds and hundreds of workers a year, right? Hundreds of working people a year, you can report violations to the Colorado Department of Labor without fear that there will be any immigration consequences for you, without fear that your information will be fed to ICE, because Colorado law prohibits that. Colorado law prohibits cooperation between the state and immigration enforcement authorities. What we found so concerning about the allegations in this case is the suggestion that the state and the governor are in fact ready to collaborate with ICE in direct defiance, not only of Colorado law, but really like the assurance that we give our clients all the time that Colorado will keep their information safe, and that's absolutely essential to protecting them, whether they're documented or undocumented, to protecting law-abiding businesses, right, that are put at a competitive advantage when you've got the bottom feeders out there exploiting people and knowing they can get away with it, and really to like working people across Colorado.
So can you connect that to this situation with Polis right now, the laws that he supposedly broke?
Yeah, so a Colorado law, and this is again, these are hard-fought wins. There's a couple of statutes that have been passed that prohibit Colorado from collaborating with ICE enforcement efforts, absent certain very narrow circumstances. So ICE, right, is mostly they're not doing the work of like criminal enforcement, right? They're there to enforce civil immigration laws, right? And our Colorado law is clear that Colorado employees may not cooperate or collaborate with those efforts in any way. I mean, frankly, like one of the most concerning types of collaboration I could possibly imagine is the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment turning over private information about people's records under the paid family medical leave law, like which could include healthcare records, and of course records about people who have filed complaints about violations. So the law prohibits any cooperation aside from very narrow circumstances which don't apply here, and I think that the kind of cooperation that I find most concerning is precisely the kind of cooperation that's alleged here.
So the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment is where this whistleblower came from, which is where this lawsuit came from. So that's the connection here, I guess.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. So Governor Polis' spokesperson said to multiple news organizations that he had to comply with the ICE subpoena because it was filed in the context of an investigation into possible child abuse and trafficking. Do you understand what he's suggesting here?
I don't understand what he's suggesting on multiple levels. So first, just as a practical matter, putting the law aside, as a practical matter, do we really think that Trump and ICE and Stephen Miller are interested in the welfare of children? What we know, and actually there's been public reporting on this. There was public reporting on this at the moment that Colorado received the subpoena. That what we know is that ICE has been involved in a concerted effort to identify unaccompanied children for the purposes of separating them from their sponsors, and in many cases deporting them. One immigration advocate has said that this project, this operation, what ICE is engaged in now, is backdoor family separation, right? Like what we're seeing is, remember, in 2018, Trump separates kids from their parents at the border, right? What we're seeing here across the country is ICE going into homes, in some cases going into schools, separating kids from their families again, often for the purposes of deporting sponsors, for the purposes of taking kids away from their families. It's frankly like defies common sense for the governor to suggest that he thinks he's protecting kids by doing the bidding of ICE. What I'll also say is that there's a couple of other reasons that I think are just clear on the face of the subpoena, that I think that the governor and the governor's office should see as suggesting that like what ICE is interested in here is not actually protecting kids. So first, the subpoena says it seeks copies of quarterly wage reports for the sponsors of unaccompanied children. It seeks copies of Healthy Families and Workplaces Act records. That includes records about people's healthcare histories. It seeks, really importantly, the information about employers, including the employer's name, physical address, phone number, and email address. They want to know where people are working right now. This is happening at the same time, by the way, as ICE is announcing that not only is it engaging in a concerted effort to find unaccompanied children for the purposes of supporting deportation efforts, but it's also engaging in a concerted effort to do workplace raids, which are designed and to terrify people, right? And again, to maintain this easily exploitable working class, which is I think what they're really interested in. At its core. So yeah, nothing on the face of the subpoena and nothing that we know about the world suggests that the governor needs to comply with this subpoena in order to protect kids. I'll also just say, I find it so baffling and concerning that we would suggest that we are that weak, right? That in order to protect kids, that Colorado needs to do the bidding of ICE, right? Are we really, do we really not have the tools to be protecting kids? Well, what are we talking about here? A couple of other things that I just want to add. One is, if all they are trying to do is find the kids, if all they want to do is find the unaccompanied children, the federal government should have that information, right? They know who the sponsors are, right? The Office of Refugee Resettlement has approved these sponsors, right? They have that information. So it's not at all clear to me why we think that providing all of this additional information, which goes way beyond identifying sponsors, would do anything to would help to advance the goal of finding people, when in theory ICE already has all of that information. And then the other thing that I'll just say, and making a more of a legal point here, is this document, this subpoena, and this is really critical to understand. This subpoena is not self-enforcing. It is an administrative subpoena. It has not been through a court, any sort of court review. It has not received the imprimatur or authorization of a court. No court has reviewed it to determine whether it is overbroad, whether it is narrow enough to meet the stated purposes of ICE. ICE needs to go to a court in order to make this subpoena enforceable, right? In order to enforce it against the state. It is not at all clear to me why the governor would be trying to fight this case out in court against his own employees and advocacy organizations and unions. Why not fight the Trump administration, which they need to go to court in order to get this thing enforced?
So are you saying Polis could have challenged the subpoena legally, but he chose not to?
He absolutely could have challenged the subpoena legally. And I am frankly baffled that he hasn't, especially considering how broad it is and the resources that it calls upon from the state. A core principle of federal law is that the state cannot be enlisted. It cannot be commandeered to do the work of federal immigration enforcement. And that appears to be what is happening here. So not only could the governor challenge the subpoena, the governor has lots and lots of very good arguments for arguing why the subpoena is not authorized and is not lawful. I'm baffled that the governor is more interested in fighting this case out in court against Coloradans than resisting the Trump administration's efforts.
So it sounds like you don't think Polis's argument about protecting kids is plausible. What do you think he's actually doing then?
I have no idea. I'll tell you, do I think he wants to be Donald Trump's lackey here, do the bidding of Donald Trump? I have no idea. Is he scared? Right? And what I find so concerning about that is, if the governor of the state of Colorado is scared of Donald Trump and ICE, who should not be scared of Donald Trump and Donald Trump's ICE? I have no idea.
I think that feels like a general sentiment right now around folks, other legislators who have worked with Polis too. Where is this coming from? And it sounds like there isn't anything clear so far as to why he's chosen to take this stance.
I think that's right.
This episode is brought to you by MultiPass. Proudly based in Denver and deeply rooted in the local event and creative scene, this ticketing platform was created by people who know events. From concerts and comedy shows to movie nights with goats and late night dance parties, you can find so much cool stuff to do across Denver thanks to MultiPass. And this isn't just a place online to buy tickets. MultiPass has a unique community chat feature that opens up once you RSVP to an event. So that means you can connect directly with others going to that event and make new friends around a shared interest. How cool is that? And if you're someone who's putting on an awesome event, listen, MultiPass is just built different. They offer same-day payouts and revenue-sharing tools built in, which automatically splits ticket revenue between producers, performers, and promoters. MultiPass is designed to help everyone in the event ecosystem win. Learn more at multipass.com. That's multipass.com. It's a much better system than Ask a Punk, which is where you usually figure out where a show is. And then you say, what time is it? And they say, the show's at show o'clock. Don't ask me that. This episode is brought to you by the Edgewater Music Festival. Hey, music lovers. The 28th annual Edgewater Music Festival is happening Saturday, June 21st at Citizens Park in Edgewater from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Picture this. 2 stages, local bands, and loads of barbecue, beer, wine, and great blues, funk, and rock and roll. For just $10, you can hang out all day and enjoy bands for 8 hours, including Maybe Fern, Wild Love Tigress, the Duke Street Kings, Roots and Rhythm Band, and Hand Turkey. Want to go big? For $100, you can get a VIP pass for free food, free wine, free beer, and covered seating. Did you hear me, fellow Gen Xers? Covered seating. You can sit down for 8 hours. I feel like that's what we look for now in concerts. This year, Edgewater Music Festival president and founder Ranger Miller is raffling off a 2010 Harley Davidson. Get 10 raffle tickets for just $50 at bluesandbarbecue.com. Proceeds benefit Habitat for Humanity of Metro Denver and other affordable housing projects. Check out bluesandbarbecue.com for all the deets. That's bluesandbbq.com for more details. This episode is brought to you by Denver Health. Connect with a trusted provider wherever you are in Colorado, right from your home, car, or office. Whether it's a cold, a minor injury, infection, or even a rash, Denver Health's virtual urgent care gets you the help you need. Rated 4.7 stars by over 100 patients on Google, it's a reliable way to feel better sooner. From your campsite. That's something Colorado people do. What if you get a bug bite in the woods? Virtual urgent care. Totally help you. You would know if you need to hustle your butt back to the city or if you can keep on your camping trip. I'm just thinking about people in Colorado doing Colorado things that I enjoy watching other people do, like camping. Denver Health is here for life's journey. Ready to make an appointment? Just head to denverhealth.org/virtual today. Most major insurance plans are accepted. Need care fast? Denver Health has you covered with virtual urgent care. So we saw you on the steps of the Capitol with Senator Julie Gonzalez and some union leaders on Monday. That's when you announced you were joining the lawsuit, and it looked almost like a political rally. And I wonder if you were trying to make a bigger political point about the governor and what that point might be.
I think the core political point, and I'm not speaking for others at the rally. I'm not speaking for, the labor movement. I'm not speaking for Senator Julie Gonzalez or any of the other legislators who were there, legislators who have worked on this legislation and coordinated with the governor's office. Yes, I think we are making a political point. This is not just a legal point. We are making a political point. It is really important for the governor can't do this, right? It is really, I think, quite dangerous to cooperate with ICE in this way. It creates real problems, right? That's why I wanted to share the stories of my clients, right? People who are terrified of coming forward. This is not some social media war, right? This is about real people and real people who are terrified. We need the governor to be standing up for them. We need the governor to be fighting for them. And I think that's something that we're going to fight out in court, but it's also something that should be part of our political conversation too. Yes, people should be calling upon the governor to do the right thing here, of course. And I don't think it should take a court order for the governor to do the right thing.
So Senator Gonzalez stopped just short of calling for Polis to resign. What do you think? Do you think he should resign?
I think that he should. I think that he should not comply with the subpoena, and I think that he should say, I think it's really important that the governor say, you know what, I'm going to stand up to Donald Trump. I'm going to stand up to ICE, right? We can protect kids in the state of Colorado. We know how to do it, right? We don't think that this is what ICE is actually about. And if they think that they need this information, they should go to court and to make us give it to them, and to argue why they think all this information is at all relevant to their stated purposes. It's really important that the governor does that. And honestly, I think that I think that is so absolute. I think that is so important. That is so important to millions of Coloradans. That's so important to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who I've talked to, who Towards Justice talks to all the time, who are living in really horrible fear, right? Fear, by the way, that like makes them exploitable again, that advantages corporations that abuse the law and seek to gain a benefit off of them. It is just so important that the governor do the right thing here. I actually don't want to even like distract from that core message. Like right now, we need him to do the right thing.
So we're debating this lawsuit as violent protests are playing out in the streets of Los Angeles over ICE raids, and there have been protests in Denver all week. How does this outpouring of anger and solidarity change the way you think about ICE here in Denver?
I think that the solidarity is going to be absolutely essential here, because this project, right, core to actually what the Trump administration is engaged in, is an effort to splinter us, right? Is an effort to drive us apart, is an effort for us to point fingers at each other. I'll just give you another example, right, which I think helps to tell the story of what's happening here from a different area of law and from a different agency. The Federal Trade Commission announced a few days ago that it is engaging in a conversation now about whether federal competition and consumer protection law can be used to go after the problem of gender affirming care, right? At the same time that the Federal Trade Commission is dropping cases against mega corporations that are hurting small business, at the same time that they seem unwilling to move forward in investigation into whether companies are charging us more or paying us less based on private information about each of us, like our browsing history online. They would rather, as opposed to doing that work, as opposed to doing the work of taking on corporate power and abuse, they would rather figure out a way to use their jurisdiction to bully trans kids, right? That is fundamentally also what the Trump administration's immigration enforcement project is about too. They want us to blame immigrants because they are deeply concerned, right, that if we stand together in solidarity, right, that we will actually be able to take on the concentrated power and wealth that is making all of our lives harder. And that's why I think that the outpouring of solidarity that we're seeing right now is so exceptionally important. Looking at LA, like some of the protests that we've seen in LA, sure, a lot of them have been organized protests. Many of them have sprouted out organically from workplace raids, right? Like how powerful is that, right? So the Trump administration is saying we are going to target workplaces, which terrifies people, again, which like allows them to maintain an exploitable working class in service of corporate profits. When those workplace raids are happening, regular people who are there, just there seeing it, they're engaging, right? They're saying like, no, we're not going to put up with this. And that's really powerful stuff.
I found it interesting too, because I think there's this conversation going on about this divide on the left, what we should do, how we should approach this issue. And I know I've seen some folks speak out against the protests that are like, this is not the right way to go about it. But I've also seen some folks kind of come over to that side that I wouldn't expect to see protesting. What do you think that this moment says about the left and this divide that we've been, I don't know, dealing with?
Well, first of all, like, yeah, you see stuff online where people like fighting about the like whether engaging in vandalism is like okay or not, right? Like, of course it's not okay. Of course, like no one should be engaging in vandalism. Of course not, right? Like that's not what the freaking debate is about right now, right? Like nobody thinks that that's the right way of approaching this, right? Like this isn't like they want to like pull out these like I think extremely like few examples of like anarchists, right, that are burning cars and to suggest that that's what this movement is about. It's absolutely not, right? I think what we're seeing is that we're looking at people from immigrants, non-immigrants, unions, right, clergy come together and say like we have to fight back against a weaponized immigration system that's denying people core rights and that flies in the face of our core values. That is a really powerful moment, right? And we shouldn't get like wrapped up in the like all the bullshit online that makes us think that we need to be fighting about like, how this will poll, or like whether we think it's okay for someone to burn a car. It's not okay for someone to burn a freaking car. We all know that, right? Like, it's like fundamentally, I think what's so powerful about this moment is an opportunity for people to come together in solidarity. I'll say this is something I worked on unrelated to this case, but there's a letter that we issued yesterday from dozens and dozens and dozens of immigration rights leaders and Jewish leaders in Colorado that calls out the Trump administration for weaponizing anti-Semitism after the June 1st attack in Boulder in order to squelch people's First Amendment rights and in order to like go after immigrants, right? And that is that kind of solidarity, right? The solidarity of like, looking people in the eye, seeing their humanity and joining together and fighting alongside them. Like, that's how we're gonna resist Trump and his overreach. We just need a little help from others, including Governor Polis.
Well, let's get back to the lawsuit. Since it was filed last week, Governor Polis has agreed to pause sharing this information with ICE while the case plays out. But a spokesperson said, quote, view the delay in protecting these children as very unfortunate. What do you think is going to happen next?
I have no idea why the governor wants to take this case to court in order to fight for his right, allegedly, to collaborate with ICE in purportedly keeping kids safe, especially because we know what ICE is actually up to. Look, Senator Bennett, a couple of weeks ago, called out ICE's operation involving unaccompanied children as being extremely concerning, right? Senator Bennett running for governor. Like, we all see what's happening out in the world. Why are we bending over backwards? Why are we spending the state's resources, the state's limited resources, hiring an outside private lawyer in order to fight for their right to collaborate with ICE? Are we really so weak that we think we can't protect kids in Colorado without ICE? It's astonishing to me. The governor should today announce that he is not going to comply with a subpoena. And if ICE needs this information, then ICE should come and get it. Why is the governor going out his way to fight with the state's money, to fight for the right to give the names and identifying information of the employers of sponsors? Like, I can't even, how does that keep anybody safe, right? He should be arguing with ICE about why this request is written the way it is, how it's possibly narrow enough to serve ICE's stated purposes, why ICE needs this information when ICE already has this information. The governor should give in, right?
What do you mean give in?
The governor should agree that he will not comply with the subpoena absent a court order telling him he has to.
David Seligman, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
We reached out to both the state employee who filed the lawsuit last week, Scott Moss, and the governor for interviews on this story. Moss's lawyer told us he is not speaking to the press at this time. The governor declined an interview and sent us a statement instead. The full text is in the show notes, but his spokesperson reaffirmed his view that, quote, this lawsuit is unfortunately delaying an investigation focused on looking into child exploitation and trafficking. And hey, that's not all. We've got one last thing for you today, a sponsored segment from the Regional Air Quality Council.
Hey, I'm Paul Caroli here with Kelsey Simpkins, the Communications and Programs Manager of Regional Air Quality Council. Hey, Kelsey.
Hi, Paul. Thanks for having me.
All right, Kelsey, listeners, they've heard the ads for the Regional Air Quality Council on the podcast, but we finally get a chance to pull back the curtain. What is the Regional Air Quality Council?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. So the RAC, as we affectionately call it, that's RAQC.
Do I get to call it too? Can I be in on that? Because that's really funny. You can call it
the RAC.
The
yeah,
RAC?
It's
I love that.
Alongside our many partners with fun acronyms here in the Front Range. So yes, we go by the RAC, and we are the lead air quality planning organization for Colorado's Front Range.
Simple steps, better air is the slogan. that our host Bree has said many, many times. We know the slogan. What are the steps this year that you all are recommending?
So every summer we do recommend quite a few options people can pick from. So there's nothing, super specific maybe to this year we would recommend over others. We really think that offering a lot of options helps people find what works best for them.
I want to know what the new hotness is. I want to know what the trend of the summer. There's the song of the summer. I want to know the simple step for better air trend of the summer.
Okay, well, we do have a fun slogan actually that goes with this program that's called Set the Summer Trend. And that's really all about, it's really all about going electric. So I would say the hot thing to do this year in 2025 is take advantage of the discount on electric lawn and garden equipment, which is a 30% discount at point of sale. So basically, if you've been toying with the idea of going electric or you want to buy a gift for somebody, like a new electric lawnmower. We know this is, extremely sexy.
Attention
kind of
to
stuff,
my friends and family. That would be a great gift for me. Just a heads up.
If anyone listening wants to buy Paul an electric lawnmower, you will get 30% off. To take advantage of this 30% discount, the only thing you have to do is just check with a retailer in advance. Most retailers in the state are participating. Again, it's a statewide discount, but not everyone is. So the only thing you have to do is just check in and make sure before you check out that you're going to get that 30% off. Otherwise, there's no rebate, there's no coupon, there's nothing you have to fill out. It's just applied right then and there.
Fantastic. So that's the simple steps part, but the better air part is maybe a little bit more complicated because you mentioned ozone pollution. That's just something I don't understand very well. I think of maybe a lot of people are out there like me or like, I know the word ozone, but I don't know what that means. Is there anything, like any common misconception that you would point out and maybe we could take this opportunity to correct?
Yeah, and you're definitely not alone in that, Paul. So people have often heard of ozone because we have this amazing protective ozone layer that circles the Earth and keeps us safe from the sun, which we don't want to harm. But ozone is something you don't want to breathe. So there's a reason we like it high up in the atmosphere and we don't like it down here at what we call ground level. And so at ground level, ozone is a pollutant. And we have more of it than we would want here in the Front Range of Colorado on a lot of summer days.
Where does it come from?
Here, down in the atmospheric layer where we breathe, it is a secondary pollutant. It's something that's formed when other things combine. So all of our car emissions, our lawn and garden equipment, again, gas-powered stuff, our oil and gas industry, all of the emissions that come from these things essentially react in the sunlight and the heat of our hot summer days. And they form ozone. And it's a very reactive molecule. So it's something that happens very quickly and kind of builds up throughout the day. But we create it essentially by living our lives as we do.
You mentioned the ozone builds up over the course of the day. Is there a way I can tell that's happening, when it's happening?
Typically, no, because ozone is actually invisible.
Ooh.
And in addition, to not being able to see it, you can't smell it either. So it's very different than some of these other air quality issues we have, which are really visible.
Huh. Interesting. So let's say I'm not in the market for a new lawnmower. Is there any other, what's one thing I could do today that would have a positive impact on our air quality?
One simple thing that everyone can do today is sign up for our summer ozone alerts. We send free text and email alerts that you can find on our website at simplestepsbetterair.org. And we'll let you know on the days when ozone's going to be potentially highest or worst and might have some sort of impact on your health. Or it's a really great day to take one of these steps and reduce your emissions. So we do advertise also that signing up for alerts is a great step to take. One of the easiest things people can do is to not do something. You can leave the car at home and you can work from home, or you can, if you need to go somewhere, walk, bike, or take a scooter for short distances, or opt for public transit are all great ways to reduce the number of trips you're taking in your car.
Kelsey Simpkins, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me, Paul.
Again, you can check out simplestepsbetterair.org to learn more, and we'll have that link in our show notes. Thanks for listening.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed the show, why not take a minute to tell Scott Moss about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe to our morning newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See you later.